Retail beef prices in the United States have risen nearly 19% in just 1 year. And when protein becomes more expensive, it is not just the piece of meat on the plate that changes. The pot of chili, taco night, weekend stew, and the family grocery bill change along with it. That is why today we are going to talk about 15 foods that smart families are stockpiling before prices rise in June 2026. What is worth noticing is that many items on this list still cost under $1 or $2. They are not found in the emergency food aisle. They do not look special, but those ordinary items can help a kitchen stretch its budget, reduce waste, and become less vulnerable as prices continue to climb. And the deeper we go into the list, the more you will see that sometimes the most worthwhile things to buy are not the items everyone is rushing to grab, but the ones they keep walking past every week. 15. Canned sweet corn. Canned sweet corn is not the kind of item that makes someone stop in the middle of the supermarket and think, "I need to stockpile this right now." And that is exactly why it is smart. A can of corn under $1 today may look too ordinary, but in a kitchen trying to deal with rising fresh vegetable prices, higher grocery costs, and increasingly expensive dinners, the can of corn is no longer just a side dish. It becomes a cheap way to keep a meal colorful, naturally sweet, and more complete. What many families overlook is that when the budget gets tighter, the problem is not just having food, but having foods the whole family is still willing to eat. White rice, pasta, beans, or soup can fill the stomach. But if everything tastes bland day after day, children get tired of it, older adults get tired of it too, and eventually the family spends more money buying something else. A can of corn can be added to soup, mixed with rice, added to stew, eaten with beans, or heated quickly with a little butter. It does not require cooking skills, does not need refrigeration before opening, and usually has a shelf life of 3 to 5 years. What is worth noticing is that corn is no longer outside the price spiral. Drought, fertilizer costs, transportation, and energy are all putting pressure on the corn supply chain. When fresh vegetable prices fluctuate sharply, cheap canned vegetables often become the first substitute for budget-conscious families. A 24-can case for under $20 may not sound glamorous, but it can represent 24 meals that feel a little less empty. The line to remember here is, a can of corn under $1 will not make you rich, but 24 cans in the pantry can help you avoid 24 times of having to buy expensive vegetables at the last minute. That is smart stockpiling. Quiet, not extreme, but very practical. And in a year when food prices may continue climbing, ordinary items like this are sometimes what help your kitchen feel calmer. 14. Cornmeal. Cornmeal is the kind of food that is very easy to underestimate because it does not look urgent. It is not as expensive as meat, not as noticeable as olive oil, not as intriguing as raw honey, and it does not feel as modern as protein powder. But if you put a 2-pound bag of cornmeal costing around $2 to $3 into the hands of someone who knows how to cook on a budget, they will see more than a bag of yellow powder. They will see cornbread, cornmeal porridge, a crispy coating for fish or chicken, a thickener for soup, a hot breakfast, a side dish for dinner, and a way to stretch meals without buying more expensive food. This is why cornmeal deserves a place on this list. It is not just cheap, it does more than its price suggests. While many packaged breakfast foods are becoming more expensive, a small bag of cornmeal can create many hot servings at a very low cost. What is worth noticing is that June is often when many families start feeling price pressure more clearly after adjustments from manufacturers, distributors, and retail stores. With corn, that pressure does not come from one side. Extreme weather, transportation costs, fertilizer, fuel, and industrial demand can all push raw ingredient prices higher. When these costs move through farms, factories, warehouses, and then supermarket shelves, shoppers usually notice last. When the bag that used to cost $2 suddenly becomes $3 or $4. That is why buying before June is not panic. It is a way to take advantage of the delay in prices. Smart families do not need to buy a whole cart of cornmeal. Just a few bags stored dry in airtight containers can add one more flexible ingredient for the months ahead. Cornmeal does not look exciting on the shelf, but in a budget kitchen, it is one of the ingredients that can do the most with the least money. When food prices rise, the winning item is not always the most famous one. Sometimes, it is the quiet item that helps you cook more meals from the same budget. 13. Canned evaporated milk. There is a very familiar moment in many American kitchens. You open the refrigerator in the morning to make coffee, and the fresh milk is gone, has gone sour, or you simply do not want to drive to the store just because one small ingredient is missing. That is when a can of evaporated milk under $2 in the pantry suddenly becomes worth far more than it looks. This is not a glamorous item. It is not displayed in the center of the supermarket. It does not have modern packaging, and it does not make anyone think about smart stockpiling. But that quiet presence is exactly what makes it easy to overlook. Canned evaporated milk helps you avoid depending entirely on fresh milk. One can be diluted with water and used in many recipes, added to coffee, made into cream soups, pasta sauces, mashed potatoes, stews, baked goods, or desserts. While fresh milk has to be purchased regularly, requires refrigeration, and can spoil just a few days after opening, evaporated milk can sit quietly on a shelf for 12 to 24 months without demanding anything at all. The pricing issue is this. When dairy industry costs rise, you are not just paying more for a gallon of milk. You are paying more for butter, cheese, cream, sauces, baked goods, coffee shop drinks, and a long list of other familiar products. A can of milk under $2 may seem small, but it is a way to lock in part of your dairy costs before new prices quietly work their way into every corner of the kitchen. Canned evaporated milk is not an old-fashioned can of milk from your grandparents' era. It is a backup refrigerator sitting quietly on the pantry shelf. Smart families buy it before they need it, because when people start remembering this item, that is usually when the shelves are no longer full, and the price is no longer as comfortable as it used to be. 12. Canned coconut milk. Canned coconut milk is very easy to misunderstand. Many people see it and immediately think of curry, Thai food, Asian dishes, or some recipe they rarely cook. But a family that knows how to plan will see something else. A can under $2 containing around 400 calories, mostly from fat, that can turn a pot of rice, some frozen vegetables, and a few types of beans into a meal that feels much more filling. During a time of rising food prices, that is not a small detail. It is the difference between a meal you eat just to get through it and a meal that still makes the whole family want to sit down at the table. Fat is the part many people underestimate when storing food. Rice can fill you up. Beans can provide protein. Vegetables can provide fiber. But without fat and flavor, a meal quickly becomes dry, bland, and tiring. Half a can of coconut milk can soften rice, thicken soup, enrich vegetables, serve as a base for curry, stew, dessert, or even replace cream in coffee. It does not just add calories. It adds the feeling of, this is a real meal. The price pressure behind this item sits behind the shelf. Much of the world's coconut supply comes from Southeast Asia, such as the Philippines, Indonesia, and Thailand. That means the price of a can of coconut milk does not depend only on coconuts. It depends on ocean shipping, fuel, import costs, exchange rates, and tariffs. The price on the shelf today often reflects costs from months ago, not the real pressure forming right now. Coconut milk does not just buy fat. It buys fullness, richness, and comfort that may become much more expensive later. This is a smart item because it does not try to replace an entire meal. It does something more subtle. It helps the cheap ingredients around it become tastier, more energy-rich, and more worth eating. 11. Split peas. No soaking needed. That alone makes split peas very different from many other dry beans in the kitchen. On a day when you forgot to prepare dinner, have no thawed meat, do not want to order takeout, and also do not want to stand by the stove for hours, a bag of split peas can save the meal in a very quiet way. Just water, a little onion, carrots, a seasoning cube, and about half an hour later, you have a thick, hot, and filling pot of soup. At a time when everything is measured in money, quick to cook is no longer just convenience. It is electricity, gas, time spent at the stove, and the energy of the person cooking. A pound of split peas is often still around under $2, but from that, you can make far more bowls of soup than a packaged meal at the same price. Just one dry cup can provide about 16 grams of protein and 16 grams of fiber. The kind of nutrition that helps a soft, warm, inexpensive meal still keep you full for a long time. This is especially important for older adults. Not every day does the body want to chew meat, eat dry foods, or digest heavy meals. A bowl of soft, thick, warm, split pea soup can be easier to eat, easier on the stomach, but still not the kind of meal you eat just to get by. It has substance, fullness, and a feeling of being cared for. As meat, eggs, and canned protein foods continue to face price pressure, quick cooking plant proteins like this will get more attention. Split peas are not loud. They do not have beautiful packaging, but they save three things at once that many families are running short on: money, fuel, and energy. An item under $2 that can do all three is no longer just a side item. 10. Chickpeas. Chickpeas have a very strange talent. They enter a meal without making anyone feel like the meal has just been cut back. A can under $1 can go into soup, salad, curry, pasta, chili, or be blended into hummus. And almost anywhere, it makes the dish feel more filling. Not flashy, not trying to take the main role, but it quietly stretches the entire meal. That is what makes chickpeas different from many other stockpile foods. You do not need to change the way your whole family eats. You only need to reduce part of the meat in the stew, add a can of chickpeas, and the meal still has substance, still has protein, still has fiber. One can usually provides around 15 grams of protein and 12 grams of fiber. At under $1, that is the kind of number that makes anyone who knows how to calculate grocery costs stop and think. In the last few years, ground beef, chicken, eggs, and many familiar protein sources have all had price increases that have made the weekend grocery bill noticeably heavier. But the most frustrating part is not just the high price. It is the feeling of having to choose between getting enough protein and keeping the budget from breaking. Chickpeas do not solve everything, but they help loosen that choice. A pot of chili with less meat but added chickpeas can still be filling. A salad bowl with chickpeas no longer feels like a light snack. A bowl of vegetable soup with chickpeas suddenly has much more weight. And it also has a very practical advantage. Chickpeas do not feel like emergency food. Hummus with bread, chickpeas mixed into salad, chickpea vegetable soup, coconut milk curry with chickpeas. All of these are meals you can use this week, not something you buy and then forget in the corner of the pantry. Chickpeas do not need to replace meat. They only need to make a smaller amount of meat still strong enough to carry the whole meal. 9. Apple cider vinegar. There are foods you buy to eat, but there are also things that quietly help the whole kitchen work longer, cleaner, and with less waste. Apple cider vinegar belongs to the second group. A bottle often costs under $4 and looks like nothing special at first, but it can appear in more places than people expect. In salad dressing, in marinades, in quick pickled vegetables, in a jar of red onions saved for the whole week, or in cleaning kitchen surfaces where you do not want to use chemicals that are too strong. Apple cider vinegar has 3 small uses stacked on top of each other. It helps food taste brighter. It helps extend the life of vegetables through simple pickled dishes. It is also a familiar cleaning agent in many households. When food prices rise, stretching vegetables for a few more days is no longer a small matter. A bag of onions, a few cucumbers, some carrots, or leftover cabbage in the refrigerator can go from about to be thrown away to a jar of pickles served with many meals. Apple cider vinegar also has a very annoying kind of price increase. It rarely feels shocking right away. No one stands in front of the vinegar shelf and panics the way they might when looking at egg or beef prices. But the cost of apples, bottles, transportation, processing energy, and packaging can all quietly push the price higher. A bottle under $4 can inch up little by little, and by the time shoppers notice, it is no longer the cheap item you can casually buy without thinking. In a budget kitchen, apple cider vinegar is not just a seasoning. It is a way to reduce waste. One small bottle can save many portions of vegetables from the trash, make cheap foods easier to eat, and make the kitchen more flexible when you do not want to buy fresh items every day. When you need something that can cook, preserve, and clean, it is hard to find anything cheaper and more compact than a bottle of apple cider vinegar sitting ready in the pantry. 8. Dry lentils. Dry lentils have one advantage that many people only realize after they are already too tired to cook dinner. They do not force you to plan from yesterday. Many dry beans need to be soaked for hours, even overnight. Lentils are different. Pour them into a pot, add water, add a little salt, onion, canned tomatoes, or a seasoning cube, and in only about 25 to 30 minutes, you already have the base for a real meal. For an older adult, a busy family, or anyone trying to save money while still eating enough nutrition, that is a very big advantage. Around $1.50 for a pound sounds so small that it is easy to overlook. But 1 pound of lentils can create far more protein-rich servings than many packaged foods at the same price. They do not need refrigeration, do not need meat alongside them to have value. And if stored sealed, they can sit in the pantry for years without creating pressure to use them right away. Lentils also have iron, fiber, and plant-based protein. 3 things that help a cheap meal avoid becoming an empty meal. What makes lentils different from split peas is their flexibility in meals. Split peas are very strong in soft soups. Lentils go further. Soup, curry, rice, warm salad, stew, taco filling, even mixed with a little ground meat to stretch expensive protein. They do not try to replace everything. They slip into the meal as a way to make the pot thicker, more filling, and less expensive. When familiar protein sources fluctuate, the item worth noticing is not always the one many people are rushing to buy. Sometimes it is the one still sitting quietly in a plastic bag on the dry goods shelf, costing only around a few dollars, but able to turn water, seasoning, and a few leftover ingredients into a meal warm enough to fill the stomach. Dry lentils do not just save money. They also save time at the stove, cooking fuel, and the number of times you have to ask yourself, what can we eat tonight without spending too much more? 7. Iodized table salt. You only realize how important salt is when a pot of soup has enough meat, enough vegetables, enough cooking time. but still tastes as bland as plain water. That is a very frustrating kind of shortage, because everything else is still there, except for one thing so cheap that almost no one thinks to keep a backup. A box of iodized table salt under $1 does not make anyone feel like they are preparing for the future. It is too ordinary, too small, too easy to forget at the bottom of the shopping list. But in a real kitchen, salt is not a minor detail. It is what turns food into a meal. People often talk about meat, rice, beans, cooking oil. But before refrigerators, before refrigerated trucks and supermarkets opened 24 hours a day, salt was once the line between food that could still be used and food that had to be thrown away. It helps cure meat, pickle vegetables, make pickles, bake bread, and keep flavor in soup, broth, and the simplest dishes a family eats every day. A little salt can make a pot of beans easier to eat. A little salt can help pickled vegetables last longer. A little salt can make cheap food no longer feel cheap. What is worth saying is that salt is so cheap that people lose their sense of caution. When a box is still under $1, no one feels rushed. But mining, packaging, transportation, plastic, paper, fuel, and distribution costs do not stand still forever. The cheapest items often do not rise in price with a loud bang. They just quietly get smaller, a few cents more expensive, then a few dozen cents more expensive, until you realize the thing you used to buy without thinking is now also starting to add to the bill. A kitchen with plenty of food, but no salt is like a wallet with money, but no key to open the door. Everything is still there, but its usefulness is reduced. And if kept dry, salt almost has no expiration date in the way people worry about many other foods. This is not an exciting item, but people who have cooked long enough all understand. Some things are cheaper, more familiar, and should never be missing. 6. Canned pumpkin puree. Canned pumpkin puree has one big disadvantage. It is stuck in people's memory as a Thanksgiving item. Many people see a can of pumpkin and immediately think of pie, cinnamon, the year-end dinner table, and then keep walking. They do not realize they have just walked past one of the cheapest nutrition-packed cans in the entire canned food aisle. A can under $2 looks very modest, but just 1 cup of pumpkin puree can provide more than 200% of the daily vitamin A requirement, along with potassium and fiber. Things that, if bought through fresh food or supplements, could make the bill much higher. It belongs to the days when the body needs a softer, warmer, easier to digest meal. There are evenings when older adults do not want to chew much meat. There are days when the house still has oats, soup, and a little baking mix, but everything lacks that soft, thick, comforting feeling. A few spoonfuls of pumpkin puree can make a bowl of oatmeal warmer, a pot of soup thicker, baked goods softer, and sauce deeper in flavor. It does not step forward as the main character, but it does a very good job of supporting other foods. The problem is that canned pumpkin does not have the flexible year-round supply many people assume. Processed pumpkin depends heavily on the growing season, especially in concentrated growing regions. If bad weather, rain at the wrong time, excessive heat, or a poor harvest happens, the cans of pumpkin on the shelf do not rise in price the very next day. They wait a beat. Then the next season, shoppers start seeing different prices, fewer promotions, or their familiar type less available than before. Many people are willing to pay a lot for things advertised as healthy, but they overlook a can under $2 that can add color, fiber, vitamins, and softness to many meals. Pumpkin puree is not just a November item. It is a small can of comfort for the days when the kitchen needs more nutrition without adding more pressure to the wallet. 5. Ghee. There is something very strange that happens in many kitchens. People do not realize butter has become more expensive until the bill at checkout makes them pause for a few extra seconds. It is still the same loaf of bread, the same carton of eggs, the same familiar sticks of butter, but the total is higher than last time. A box of butter rising by $1 or $2 may not sound big enough to make anyone panic, but it is often a sign that the entire dairy system behind it is under pressure. Animal feed, electricity, cold transportation, labor, packaging, all of it is pushing into the final price. At first glance, a jar under $12 may look more expensive than regular butter. But that comparison is a little too short-term. Butter needs refrigeration, can spoil if not used at the right time. And every long power outage makes you start calculating how long the food in the refrigerator can still last. Ghee is different. When unopened, it can sit quietly on the shelf for months without needing a single watt of electricity, without taking up refrigerator space, and without forcing you to use it quickly just because you are afraid it will spoil. The real value of ghee appears on very ordinary days. A morning when you want to fry eggs but the butter is gone. A week of snowstorms when you do not want to go outside. A month when the budget is tighter and you want to reduce those supermarket trips just to buy a few small items. Ghee still makes vegetables smell better, hot rice richer, soup deeper, and pan-seared dishes tastier. It is not a luxury item. It is fat prepared in advance for the moments when the kitchen needs more flexibility. A jar of ghee will not help you avoid every price increase, but it helps you lock in part of your fat needs at today's price. During a time when butter, milk, and many dairy products can all fluctuate, that is a very practical advantage. Some items are bought for tonight's dinner. Some are bought for next week. Ghee belongs to a more special group. It buys the kitchen more time, more options, and more calm before butter prices rise without warning. 4 Bouillon cubes. This may be the most underrated item on the entire list because it does not win with protein, calories, or vitamins. But it wins in the place where many pantries fail the most. Flavor. During the first week, rice is still fine. During the second week, beans are still edible. During the third week, there is still pasta in the pantry. But then one day, you open the pantry, see that it is still full of food, and yet you do not want to eat any of it. Not because there is a shortage of food, but because everything is starting to feel the same. A box of Bouillon cubes under $3 solves exactly that problem. One chicken-flavored cube can make a pot of white rice feel more like an intentional meal. One beef-flavored cube can make a pot of lentils feel less like something you are eating just to get by. One vegetable cube can turn hot water and a handful of noodles into something with aroma, depth, and the feeling of being cooked, rather than simply heated up. The difference is not that you have more food. The difference is that the food you already have becomes more worth eating. When budgets get tighter, many families focus on filling foods: rice, beans, pasta, flour, and canned goods. That is correct, but it is not enough. A budget kitchen does not just need calories. It needs ways to make those calories go further without making people tired of eating them. Measured by cost per use, one box of Bouillon cubes can change the flavor of dozens of meals. Very few items under $3 in the supermarket create that much of a meal experience. What is even more concerning is when the pantry is still full, but no one wants to touch what is inside. Bouillon cubes do not feed you in a direct sense, but they help rice, beans, pasta, and soup continue doing that job. During months when food prices are rising, flavor is no longer an extra. It is what keeps inexpensive meals from turning into something that feels like endurance. 3. Protein powder. There is something many people only realize after a few years of grocery shopping. Protein rarely becomes cheap again. A pound of beef rising by a few dollars does not just make one dinner more expensive. It pulls the whole week of shopping along with it. Chili becomes more expensive. Tacos become more expensive. Stew becomes more expensive. When retail beef has risen nearly 19% compared with the year before, protein powder is no longer just a product for the gym. Practical families see it as a concentrated form of protein that can sit quietly in the pantry. Around $1 to $2 per serving of protein. No cooking needed. No thawing needed. No refrigerator needed. No need to use it up within a few days. It can go into oats, smoothies, pancakes, yogurt, or familiar meals to fill the nutrition gap when meat, eggs, and canned protein foods become increasingly expensive. Protein powder does not completely replace meat. It does something smarter. It reduces dependence on meat. In a kitchen where protein is becoming the most expensive part of the plate, a container of protein powder is no longer gym food. It is protein insurance. 2. Canned tomatoes. Imagine the end of the month, when the pantry only has rice, pasta, beans, and a little shredded meat left. On their own, each one does not sound very appealing, but add 1 can of canned tomatoes, and everything starts to have direction. Pasta can become pasta. Beans can become chili. Rice can become stew. Shredded meat can become taco sauce. 1 can under $1 will not feed the whole family, but it can take the whole kitchen further. This is the real power of canned tomatoes. They turn scattered ingredients into a meal. And this small item depends on a very vulnerable system. Most processed tomatoes in the United States come from California, where drought, heat, water costs, and labor can all push prices higher behind the scenes. Shoppers usually only notice when the familiar can suddenly goes on sale less often, gets smaller, or costs a few dozen cents more. But in the pantry, those few dozen cents multiply very quickly. Canned tomatoes are not just sauce. They are the base for soup, pasta, stew, tacos, and decent dinners when you do not want to buy too many extra things. 1. Raw honey. Archaeologists once found jars of honey more than 3,000 years old that were still edible. Think about that for a moment. Empires disappeared, cities changed, but the honey was still there. While most foods have a countdown clock, honey almost stands outside that rule if stored properly. But the reason honey ranks number 1 is not just its shelf life, it is its rising value. During a time when the USDA is forecasting the sweets category to rise by about 8.1% in 2026, a jar of honey is not just sweetness. It is a way to lock in today's price for sweetness. Meanwhile, beekeepers are still facing colony losses, extreme weather, disease, and higher production costs. Honey is hot tea on a cold day, morning oats, a slice of toast, and a weekend baked good. It keeps a sense of normal life in the kitchen when everything outside becomes more expensive. And the most important thing to remember about today's 15 items is that they are not rare yet. They are still on the shelf. The best prepared people do not wait until everyone panics. They recognize the value of ordinary things while they are still ordinary. What is interesting is that none of the items on today's list are truly rare. They are not locked behind glass cabinets. You do not need to stand in line to buy them. You do not need to wait for a crisis before looking for them. They are still sitting on the familiar shelves that millions of people walk past every week. But history shows that the most valuable things are often not the things that disappear first. They are the things seen as ordinary until the day they are no longer as cheap as they used to be. Preparation is not buying a lot. Preparation is seeing value before the rest of the market sees it. A jar of honey, a can of tomatoes, a bag of lentils, or a box of seasoning may not change your life today, but they can make the months ahead easier, more stable, and less stressful. And now I want to ask you, of the 15 items today, which one is already in your pantry? And which one do you think you should buy before your next supermarket trip? Share it in the comments below. I would really like to read your thoughts.